Welcome to the downtown studios of Cranford, New Jersey. You're here at the Commissioner's Cove. Alongside of me is the Co-Commissioner, 13th Legion, and I am the Commissioner, Ricky Let Me Down, where we come together to bring joy, information to you guys in the fantasy football world. So sit back, relax, listen to two distinguished gentlemen, drink your little cafecito, smoke your little cigar, drink your little bourbon, whatever you do, and enjoy. Hopefully.
All right, Commish. That was a lengthy one.
Welcome. Happy Cinco de Mayo, my friend.
Yes, happy Cinco de Mayo.
All right. We're coming together today. We're going to be bringing, this is the post-draft. Post-draft after all the rookies that got drafted to the NFL teams, and we're going to talk about them today.
Yes, yeah, there was a big lull in the winter season there. We didn't have any football to talk about. Then miraculously, there you go. We got the NFL rookie draft, and off we are. This is the official. I mean, listen. For professionals like us, there is no off season in fantasy football.
Never there is.
And we go all year round. There's always something to research, something to do. But you can, in a lot of ways, this is the start of dynasty season.
It sure is.
Because, all these rookies have now been drafted, and they're going to be starting some early drafts for rookie drafts. For us, it's we got a few months away. But you can say that this is the start of fantasy football.
It sure
for
is.
2024.
Now, you guys sit back and listen up, and we're going to be providing some college football stats from last year from everyone that was drafted for your dynasty teams or your dynasty league that you guys are starting. So we're going to try to talk about how they utilize them in college and maybe how they're going to utilize them in the NFL. So without further ado,
let's get into it.
Let's get this party started. All right, we're going to start off real quick with the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, doesn't need no introduction. We all know who they drafted. All right, Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously, and then Trey Benson. Okay, no one here really much on the offensive side of the ball that we really should talk about. Just the offensive two guys, unless you think anything differently.
No, they have it's going to be a very interesting scenario. I'm sure a lot of you out there have already started following fantasy, and a lot of people saying Marvin Harrison could be a top 36 wide receiver drafted. Usually rookies don't go that high, but this guy's going to be drafted right now. The ceiling is where people are assuming he's going to be. So you're probably looking, with Trey McBride as being the only other receiver on that team. Who knows? I mean, you're talking about maybe 100 targets for him his rookie year.
Well, hold on now. You're saying Marvin has 100 targets. Let's go back. I'm going to go back to 2023, his college stats here.
Go ahead.
Last year, 2023, he played out of the Big Ten. Obviously, everyone knows Ohio State. Played 12 games, 67 receptions in college.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me he's going to get 100 receptions in the NFL?
100 targets.
100 targets.
100 targets.
All right. Well, he had 67 receptions for 1,200 yards, 1,211 yards, and he averaged 18 yards per reception. That's pretty big.
Yeah, it is pretty big. And, I think that I don't think he's going to have a tough time replicating those numbers. Not the yardage-wise, but the receptions-wise.
Receptions.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about their running back, who they picked up. Trey Benson's a big pickup as well.
Which is the reason why I don't think he's going to replicate, the 1,200 yards. I think, with Connor still there and Benson coming in to spell him, it's going to be a 1A, 1B situation. Connor's too good to sit down and for Trey to just take over in his rookie year.
Well, let's talk about
that's the way I'm looking at it.
All right, that's good. Let's talk about Trey Benson. Trey Benson last year, 906 yards rushing, 156 attempts, 20 receiving receptions, 227 yards receiving. So he could catch the ball at the backfield.
Yes.
So
and so can Connor.
Right. So I'm thinking this kid right here, dynasty purposes, you might be looking at this kid to replace Connor in that good high-power offense.
Dynasty, yes. Redraft, so come September or the end of August when we're drafting, is Trey Benson coming off in the first round? What do you think?
Redraft?
Yeah.
No. I don't think so.
No,
he might be maybe third, fourth round, maybe, because people don't know about it yet. Now, if Connor's in the game, maybe 6th or 7th round. When Connor's not in the game, when he retires, I'm just saying when he retires, Trey Benson is going to take over.
If they move on from Connor, yes, next year it'll be Trey Benson's backfield to own. You might have a situation like Detroit had this year, where Connor is getting the bulk, and then Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the Trey Benson role, and Trey will come in. He might actually be better on at the last portion of the season than in the early part.
All right, we'll check that out. It's we'll see when the season begins. All right, let's move on. You got the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, I think they made a mistake picking up Michael Penix, but you know what they were looking at? In my opinion, I'll tell you what they were looking at right now.
Tell me, Commissioner.
I'm going to tell you exactly what they were looking at. Michael Penix, believe it or not, let me get to my information here. All the research I did, and my give me a second. It's coming. Michael Penix led the nation with passing yards this year, 4,903 passing yards. Okay, Michael Penix, but he threw the most out of any quarterback last year in college football.
Yeah, and he disappeared in that bowl game.
555 attempts. That's a lot of throws.
I know. Listen, whoa, what was that?
It happens. There was a earthquake here in Jersey. It was a power outage, but we're back online. So go ahead. What were you saying, Cole?
I was talking about the fact that Atlanta gave Kirk Cousins a $180 million contract, and this has been put out there already. But if Penix doesn't start until Kirk Cousins retires, say 3 years from now,
that's a long time.
Yeah, he's 27, 28 when he's starting his NFL career. I just don't understand, what the thinking was. Maybe they were concerned. You brought this up to me the other day. Maybe they were concerned about his Achilles, maybe not healing enough or re-injuring it. Who knows? But it was a chance. It was a confusing, thing to try to process, but it is what it is. Penix is with Atlanta.
Okay. The next guy we're going to talk about skill position. It's going to be the running back Chase McClellan. All right, Chase McClellan, real quick. I don't think he's gonna chomp into Bijan Robinson's backfield.
No, you still have Bijan. You still have Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
I think he's an insurance policy.
Absolutely. So let's just go over his stats real quick for last year's draft, just in case Bijan ever gets hurt. All right. So or in dynasty leagues, 13 games, 180 yards attempts, 890 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So nothing to write home about. But you know what? Could be a serviceable back.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably. Tyler Algier will be going into his third year. They might not pick up his rookie deal, and they'll keep Chase. We'll see.
All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens, obviously, here is, the only thing skill position-wise, you're going to have a wide receiver, Devontae Walker, I believe, in college. All right, we'll get to
He's more of a big body.
Right.
Which is what actually Lamar had asked for.
When Odell was there?
Well, he had asked for a big, ever since Odell left. You take a look at Bateman is often injured, and Flowers is a smaller type of wide receiver. So they're looking for a bigger body. They want to stretch the field with the bigger body. Don't forget, you still have Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews, but they're not going to be going deep. They'll be over the middle in the middle of the field.
All right, let's go over his stats. You got he played in 8 games last year, 41 receptions, 699 yards, receiving 17. I apologize. Seven touchdowns last year. All right, pretty marginal, but like you said, they're probably going for
Still
more.
7 touchdowns.
Right.
I'm sure they were in close.
In only 8 games.
Yes.
Only 8 games. Okay, so that's who Baltimore received, and obviously they picked up a running back, Rasheen Ali. Is he going to cut into their running backs? What do you think? Because they get rid of running backs a lot over there, and they intertwine them.
Listen. You still have King Henry there, and you still have King Mitchell. Justice Hill's still sticking around. I don't know. Rasheen might be just an insurance policy. Who knows? Special teams guy.
All right. Let's go over his stats. He had 212 attempts last year in college.
That is a lot.
That's a lot.
Trey only had 150-ish.
Yeah.
Yep.
212 yards. I apologize. 1,135 yards rushing, and he played at the Sun Belt Conference out of Marshall. Okay. 15. He had 28 receptions, 213 yards. He can catch the ball at the backfield as well.
Yeah, he seems like an all-around type player. I do not see him drafted in redraft. Maybe a late round flyer. And definitely I don't see much in dynasty right now.
All right. Let's move on to Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills was a big question mark because everyone knew they needed a wide receiver. They traded down. They traded down with the Kansas City Chiefs. However, you just saw the new update on Twitter the other day. The Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver, he dropped the ball. So they were like, nothing's changed. All right, he was in I believe they're in rookie camp right now, or they're getting together practicing. And if you look on social media, you could see he runs a route, comes out of the route, they throw him the ball, and it goes right through his hands.
Yeah,
nothing's changed.
Yeah, listen, I know they we're not talking about KC right now, but we'll get to KC obviously later. But they drafted Worthy, but did people forget Marquise Hollywood Brown is the big acquisition?
They just like the speed. They like the speed. All right, let's get to Buffalo Bills. Keon Coleman, obviously. Keon Coleman and Ray Davis are the two offensive skills. That's all they really draft. That's all we really care about. All right, on when it comes to fantasy football and dynasty. Okay, so let's talk about real quick Keon Coleman. Last year's stats out of Florida State, 12 games, 658 yards, 50 receptions, all right, 13 yards. He averaged 13 yards per catch, and he had 11 touchdowns. I don't know. Nothing popping. I'm sorry. 50 yards, 658, 50 receptions, 658 yards in college in 2023. If this guy's supposed to be the number one, is he really going to be a number one in the NFL with those type of numbers?
I think I don't know what they were thinking.
What do you think?
There was a lot of hype towards the end of the draft of him coming out. There was a lot of excitement about who would get him. I think he's more of a project, and I certainly don't think he's going to take over for Shakir in that offense.
No, I don't think so either, especially with those numbers.
No, right. And yeah, it's college, and this is going to be the pros, and you got Josh Allen going to throw him the ball or force feed him. Obviously, there are targets to be had since Stephon is gone, all right? But how many of those go to Coleman? I don't know. I still think Shakir, and I've said this from the very beginning.
And the tight ends.
The tight ends and Shakir are the biggest beneficiaries. And if you take a look at who they drafted running back wise, who knows? And I know you're going to get to this.
I'm going to get to it right now.
James Cook is going to even be the lead back.
So I'm going to piggyback off that. That's a good point. Good point. So I'm going to talk about the guy who they drafted. What is it?
Ray Davis.
Ray Davis out of Kentucky, out of SEC. All right, last year's stats: 13 games, 199 yards 199 attempts, 1,129 yards rushing. Okay, and I believe he had 14 touchdowns. That's a lot. Okay?
Yes,
that's a lot.
I could see Cooks losing some time on the goal line. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. Is Josh Allen not going to run the ball if it's 1 or 2 yards out?
I got a better for you. You ready for this? 33 receptions, 323 yards receiving. Scrimmage yards all around scrimmage, 1,452 scrimmage yards. So here it's another back that could catch a ball at the backfield.
Yes.
So if Cook falters a little bit, this kid might
Which we saw in the beginning of the year. If you remember last year, Cook started cooking, so to speak, not until after they got rid of their offensive coordinator.
That's right.
So we'll see. We'll see.
All right, let's move on to the Carolina Panthers. They got Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks, and Jatavion Sanders. Those are the three. All right, Jatavion Sanders, the tight end position, I really do too much research on it because there's only two tight ends of noteworthiness in this draft, which is Bowers and Jatavion Sanders. I think they're going to utilize them, but they have a lot of skill position players over there in Carolina. So let's temper our expectation on him. What do you have written down for Sanders?
Listen, I have the Panthers as one of the teams, one of my 5 teams that I identified as the most improved teams through the draft. Mm-hmm. You get probably many considered the best running back out of the draft, Jonathan Brooks. If he didn't have that ACL injury, then he definitely would have been, no question, the number 1 running back out of there. He was the first running back drafted in the draft, but there would have been no question. Who knows? He might have been in the first round. Mm-hmm. Then you have Xavier Legette, who's kind of like a hometown body because he's from South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And then you're right. You're talking about the second. A lot of people considered the second best tight end out of the draft behind Bowers. And by the way, the third was the guy who the Giants drafted.
Yes.
But so I think those 3 people right there, they've much improved this team. They've given Bryce Young the weapons to utilize down the field finally.
Let's go Legette in college, 12 games out of SEC South Carolina, like you just stated, 71 receptions, 1,255 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. That's
Now,
pretty big.
It is, but a lot of people are going to put that was his only big year in college.
I understand
So-
he might have matured.
Yes.
So they probably utilize him. They feature him as a wide receiver one. So we'll
But
see.
don't forget, he doesn't have to be a wide receiver one because they have Johnson on the team. They
Yes.
Deontay Johnson got traded over, got let go, got traded over to them, or they picked him up free agent wise. That's still a savvy veteran to learn from for Leggett.
But you know what? You know he's capable of doing it. That's all. That's why I'm
Yeah,
bringing up these
yeah.
stats. All right, let's go over Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks, obviously, like you stated, the first running back that was picked off the board. There's pretty impressive numbers here. 187 yards. 187 attempts, 1,139 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns in college, and he played out of Texas. And Texas is not a small school.
No. It's a tough conference.
Yeah.
And you and I, we were doing some. We did some tape watching. We watched the film on a lot of the running backs, and we liked him. We saw his tape, and we liked what we saw.
He had 25 receptions out of the backfield, 286 yards with a total scrimmage yards total of 1,425. That's pretty good.
Definitely an all-around
Good for the
back.
Panthers.
Yeah. That's why I put him up there as one of the top 5 teams most improved.
Good for the Panthers. All right, let's move on.
Let's move on to the Windy City.
Let's go to the Bears, the Chicago Bears. Obviously, they don't need any introduction. Khalid Williams, Rome Odunze. Okay, those are the two major big guys that they drafted right there. Let's go over their stats. All right, for the college. Obviously, Rome Odunze led the nation in receiving yards, 1,640 with 92 receptions. 92 receptions, that's a lot.
Yes.
So, this
Those
kid...
are Keenan Allen numbers.
So what I'm trying to say is, going back to his college stats, I believe this kid, when Keenan Allen disappears and when he retires, or when they cut him next year and they don't want to pay him anymore, this kid is going to be a wide receiver one. He 100%.
Yes.
He will be a wide receiver number one.
However, as far as fantasy, listen, Dynasty definitely he's going.
Oh, yeah,
maybe
Dynasty-wise.
end of the first, second round.
Yeah.
Definitely he's going to go. Redraft, I don't know where he goes. He's going to take a hit in the beginning of the year.
Yes.
Because Keenan Allen obviously is going to, unless something happens in training camp, I'm expecting DJ Moore and Keenan Allen to be 1 and 2 out there. Don't forget you still have the running game and you still have Cole Kmet. I just don't see the numbers for Odunze in the beginning of the year.
That's fair. All right, let's talk about, obviously, Khalid Williams. He had 388 attempts, all right, 3,633 yards passing last year. Okay, 30 touchdowns. He had 11 rushing touchdowns. So what does that lead us to believe? That when he's in the red zone, he might take off, almost like a Josh Allen type of guy. So is it going to take away from the running backs in Chicago? Is it going to take away from the wide receivers in Chicago? Are they going to use him to run in the red zone if the play breaks down?
They might not want to use him.
Right.
But, all rookie quarterbacks, when they don't see that first, they're going to get nervous in the pocket, right?
Right.
I don't care how many NFL games, college games you played. This is the NFL. Things are sped up that you wouldn't believe. He's good. Anthony Richardson did it last year. He took off. Josh Allen did it in the beginning of his career, and he's still doing it. But that's designed now. Is Caleb Williams gonna run the ball?
I think he is.
Yes, he's going to.
But he might get hurt.
Yeah, he might. You're right. Now, this is where it's all up to the coaching staff. Are they going to tell him, hey, listen, when things break down, you feel like running, go ahead and do it?
No way.
Because I wouldn't do that.
They're not. They're going to refer to reference to Anthony Richardson.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But you know what? He shouldn't take off and run. Look at what he's surrounded by.
You're right.
You just got finished saying DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Keenan Allen, Odunze. You still have the running game with DeAndre Swift, who they got in free agency.
Yeah.
And Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson.
He doesn't need to run.
No, they doesn't need to run.
All right. Nobody wants to talk about the Bears anymore. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
All right. Cincinnati Bengals. It's just one person of of skill sets here. Really, two is Eric All, which is a tight end. Again, I really didn't do much research on the tight end position, just the two guys, the two top guys. They might have brought him in for a blocking. Even if he was a pass-catching tight end, they really utilized their tight ends much anyway in Cincinnati. The other guy we're going to talk about is Jerome Burton. Jerome Burton, college stats, he's out of Alabama, so he's had some skill sets. Obviously, we know that Bama boys, okay? 13 games, 39 receptions, 798 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. That's not bad for only 39 receptions. 8 touchdowns for 39 yards, 39 receiving. I'm thinking he might be a slot guy, but he might take away from the guy I like. You know that. Or they might want to spread it with a full wide receiver set or wide receiver.
They might.
Right.
Jermaine Burton is definitely the future. A lot of people are talking about when T. Higgins, this is going to be his last year with the team. And Jermaine Burton is going to be taking over for him. At least that's what we've been hearing.
Okay, let's move on. Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns here, wide receiver Jamira Thrash on the offensive side of the ball. And everyone they picked up on defensive offensive lineman. I mean, Jeremiah Thrash, I don't even think they had him. Let's see here. If I can even find him. Yeah, I did. Here he is. He's at an ACC out of Louisville. 12 games, 63 yards receiving. 60 yards, 60 catches, 858 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. Not bad.
Not bad, but he's not the guy that they're going to throw to. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore are going to be the 3 right now. And they still have that good run game. And what they did was they just improved their offensive line.
They sure did. That's what they drafted, and offensive lineman and defensive lineman.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And Nick Chubb's going to come back.
Yes.
That's a tough injury to come back from, but we'll see what happens with him. All right, let's move on to the Dallas Cowboys, America's team. Are we really looking at any skill position players? I don't think they did. Yeah, they did. They signed Zeke.
Yeah.
They picked the offensive tackle.
Deja vu all over again.
Yeah. Edge. Offensive guard, linebacker, cornerback. Wide receiver Ryan.
They drafted 3 wide receivers. Just for depth.
That's just
depth-wise. It's got to be depth and special teams.
Yeah.
I don't see any of them taking over for Cooks and Lamb.
Yeah. We're going to move on from Dallas Cowboys. They didn't pick anyone up of any significance. All right, the next team we're going to talk about is the Denver Broncos. This is a big one here because I got some stats for you for the college game.
Yeah, they're one of the other 5 teams that I picked who most improved through the draft this year.
Oh, yeah. They have 3 skill set positions, players that they picked up. Number 1, we're going to talk about Bo Nix. Let's talk about Mr. Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix. A lot of people don't like him. I know he's 35 years old coming into the league. But I'm not going to talk crap about him.
Come on, he's 25.
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
He's been playing college football.
He has been playing college football, I believe, for 5 years.
Yes.
He has more passing yards I think it's passing yards than Joe Burrow does right now, and Joe Burrow's time in the NFL. So I know it doesn't equate. It's college football and NFL. However, Bo Nix is probably the most pro-ready quarterback that you're going to get. And they've already said they're throwing him right in there. He's going to be the starter at the beginning of the year. And to me, I've told you this before. I always, I know there were other, people doing fantasy that said they predicted Bo Nix going to Denver. I was on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
I was hooked on it. I said, this is Drew Brees 2.0. This is the New Orleans Saints 2.0.
I like
Sean
it.
Payton is remaking this team.
You get me excited.
I know.
Say it.
I know. It's
Say it with your chest.
I can see Cortland Sutton taking the Mike Thomas role. I see Marvin Mims and taking on the don't forget Diggs was not Diggs Brandon Cooks was with New Orleans originally and to stretch the field. Plus they have some pretty good running backs.
Okay. Let's talk about it. So Bo Nix was number 2 in the nation last year on passing yards with 4,508 passing yards. Okay, average yards per pass 9 yards.
Yes.
So what does that mean? That's a West Coast offense.
Yes, we're staying close to the line. Quick decisions,
there it
quick
is.
passes.
There it is right there, 9 yards. Okay, we talked about Michael Penix was 8 yards. 8 yards. So I'm thinking 3-step, 4-step drops. You're not taking 5, 7-step drops.
Look who Michael Penix had on his team.
Hold on, we're gonna talk about that for a second, okay? Because Bo Nix is the guy. Yes. I believe Bo Nix is the guy who. No, I apologize. It wasn't Bo Nix. It was Troy Franklin out of Oregon. That's what we're gonna talk about.
Yes.
But we're gonna talk about the guy who played opposite Rome Odunze, okay? And somebody did draft him. But so Bo Nix. So 9.6 yards average passing yards, okay? Average. That means 3-step drops, quick decision-making process, West Coast offense, running backs, throws to the running back, tight ends, short passes, yak yards.
Yes.
That team's going to be, I'm not saying it's going to be super explosive. All I'm going to say is there's going to be some ups and downs, but
There'll
Nix,
definitely be ups and downs.
Bo
But
Nix-
if you're looking for a team that's
Yep.
going to get you fantasy points,
I think-
this is going to be a team to do it. There's going to be a lot of receptions and a lot of yards. You might not let it get touchdowns, but this is what you're going to get at least
And that's
this
what we
year.
want.
Yeah.
That's all we want as fantasy and dynasty. That's all we want.
And let's not just, you mentioned his name, but Bo Nix threw to a wide receiver named Troy Franklin, who Denver also drafted.
Let's talk about Mr.
And we know what quarterbacks throwing to our college teammates, Joe Burrow,
Yes.
like to do.
Oh, they love to target him. All right, let's talk about Troy Franklin, who was drafted by the Denver Broncos, who came out of where? What team did he play for?
Oregon.
Oregon, that's right.
I thought you were talking to the Raider Nation over there. Oh, by the way, we have a special guest in the studio.
Yes.
Raider Nation is here.
Ray, thank you for coming out. Ray Nation supporting the studio. You're always welcome to the Commissioner's Cove. One day you could sit down, we could chit chat. All right, but as of today, you
Stay
can
quiet.
Just you could see how it operates here. Thank you, sir. All right, Troy
yes.
Franklin in college, 81 receptions, and who threw him the ball? Bo Nix. 1,383 yards last year. I know it's college. I understand it's college. His average receiving yards, average where he caught the ball, 17 yards. That means he gets off the line. Average cornerbacks is the NFL is a little bit different now. All right. 14 touchdowns. That's what he had last year. Okay. He does not get any, he got no rushing attempts last year. So that means they're not going to be utilizing for any jet sweeps, any gimmick plays. They didn't draft him for that. So that's what you have for Troy Franklin. All right. Let's talk about the running back. The running back they picked up. Oh, I like this kid. Audric, how you say it?
Estime.
Audric Estime. I think
Big-bodied guy.
he might be a loser on that team, though.
Listen,
I think he might be a loser. He would have been perfect for the Cowboys.
He probably would have been.
That's who I think.
Javonte Williams is now 1 year removed from that ACL injury, and usually this is the year that if you're gonna be anything after an ACL, it's gonna be the year removed. So we'll see what happens.
I think this kid is a good picker for dynasty leagues. Okay, because he is going to be their number one in a couple of years. All right, let's go over his college stats and how they utilized him. 210 attempts last year. That's a lot of attempts in 12 games. All right, divide that up, you math majors, and tell me how many attempts per game. Okay, 1,341 yards rushing, 18 touchdowns, 17 receptions, 142 yards receiving.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he can catch the ball, but they didn't utilize him to do that. He's more of a bruiser between the tackles. He's going to get you just evident that 17 touchdowns. All right,
Right.
and just one more comment about Bo Nix. Obviously, what college did he play for?
Oregon.
Right. There's
Troy
another
Franklin.
guy who played for Oregon that I really liked as a quarterback.
We don't talk
Let's just
about.
move
We don't
on.
want to talk about Justin Herbert. I don't want to talk about Justin Herbert. All right, let's move on. The Detroit Lions. Detroit picked out a defensive back, offensive tackle,
Yes,
and a
they
running
had
back.
to improve their defense. They had a sieve
Yeah.
for a secondary. They did everything they had to. They're coming back intact on offense, so I don't see anything different.
Let's talk about their the running back they drafted. Obviously, he poses no threat to any of the running backs at the Detroit Lions backfield. However, it's noteworthy. So let's give him a little shout out. Okay, yeah,
I don't have him on my list. Running back or wide receiver?
he's a running back. Sion Vaki. Sion.
How did I miss that?
1 second here. Let's see if I can find Mr. Sion Vaki. I know I do have him here. I know I spoke about him. And
Do, 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 do,
it's a little embarrassing.
do, 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 do,
It's okay.
do, 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 do.
I guess I don't have
Come
his
on,
stats.
Kamish.
I don't have his stats.
Supposed to be
Okay.
prepared.
I don't
I'm
have his stats
disappointed.
for a running back. You know, but all I'm saying is
Forgive us,
he's,
folks. This is the first time we've been back on the air for a while.
He's not going to be any significance to the Detroit backfield. So we're just going to move on from there. All right, but if you want to do your research on him, his
Put him on your watch list.
yeah, put him on your watch. Common spelling,
Zaki.
Vaki, V-A-K-I, running back out of Detroit. All right, let's go to the Green Bay Packers. Anyone significance here? Marshawn
Yes.
Lloyd. Yes, there is. Marshawn Lloyd is the running back. Okay. And they picked up a quarterback, Michael Pratt, but I don't think he's gonna. Obviously, I think Jordan Love is a
I
star.
love, again, we go back to the time that we were watching tapes on players, and we loved Marshawn Lloyd. You did especially. I did too.
I liked him. I really
He could have had
enjoyed
a
him.
better landing spot. This is a guy that Dallas would have benefited from.
I don't know about that. I think he. Well, then again, yeah, you signed Josh Jacobs.
Yes.
How
and I
many
don't-
more years
you're
is Josh
going-
Jacobs?
Even if you say that you're not going to, what are you going to do? You say, if Josh Jacobs is out on the field, say, for 200 attempts, rushing attempts this year, you think you're getting rid of him next year? This is his 4th year in the league. It's not like he's washed up and hasn't performed.
He's only 4 years in the league.
Yeah.
It seems as though he's had many more years left. I mean, it seems as though he's been in the league longer.
So what's the intent here? Is the intent here just keeping Josh Allen on a 1-year deal and then having Marshawn take over? I don't think so. I think these two are
No.
going to be splitting carries for the next 2 years.
Yep, 1A. Yeah, I agree with you.
And therefore, I don't see Marshawn having, listen, again, we talk about this every year. You're not going to get a situation where you're going to get a stud bell cow running back. The McCaffreys of the world, those situations don't exist too often. And you're going to get the 1A and 1B, just like we had to deal with Williams and
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs last year. But so where do you think that 1B is going to be in the rankings? Well, that's the chance you have to take.
Yeah. So Marshawn Lloyd, 11 games last year out of USC, out of the Pac-12, 820 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns. He only had 13 receiving yards, 232 yards in receiving. That's not much at all. Okay. That's pretty much it for the Green Bay Packers for skill position players. They drafted a quarterback, but he's just for depth purposes. All right, Houston Texans, cornerback. They drafted a tight end, Cade Stover, but that's really nothing of significance. Running back, Jawar Jordan. All right, is he going to push the running back out of Houston at all? What do you think, Cole?
I'm sorry, I was just going back on Josh. I said 4 years. He's been in the league 5 years.
Oh, he has. It
Yeah.
seems though he's been in the league longer than that.
Yeah, I know.
All right, Jawar Jordan is out of Louisville from the ACC. All right, so last year he had 13 games, 181 yards, 181 attempts, 1,128 yards rushing, and 13 touchdowns. But I'm sorry, I think the running back to get out of Louisville from last year is we're going to talk about him.
Yes, we are.
Isaac
Guerrero.
Guerrero, and the 49ers picked him up. I wanted Miami to take him. I really did. I think he's going to be better dynasty-wise, but they feel otherwise. Jawar Jordan was the starter. Guerrero was the backup. He was the transfer. But Jawar Jordan, they said here, he had pretty decent stats in college, and see how they're going to utilize him over there with the Texans.
See, someone like that, every year injuries happen in the NFL. And every year at some point, you're looking at the hot waiver wire pickup, and it's usually the backup, right? But then there's people like you and me who go like, we're not going to get that guy on the waiver wire. So
Right.
who's the backup to the backup?
Yeah.
So this is one of those guys that you're going to have to keep on the back of your mind. You might have to take some bench space from you.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make a decision who you want to drop, who you want to keep. All right, let's talk about the guy that I've always loved for a long time. Obviously, the Dolphins didn't pick him up because he wasn't fast enough. Obviously, because they only like guys who run 4.3 speed. The Colts picked up Adonai Mitchell. Mitchell came out of Texas. I really like this kid, but let's go over his stats in college. His college stats. I just had it. 1 second here. Donate. Oh, here he is. Out of the Big 12, Texas, 14 games. He only had 55 receptions last year in college. Even, so I think he made the most out of the little that the most out of the little receptions that he got. He only got 55, so I don't think they featured him because they had the running back.
They had Brooks, yeah.
They had Brooks back there. I think they wanted to focus on the run. He had 55 receptions, 845 yards receiving. His average for receiving yards was 15 yards. Okay.
What kind of impact is he going to have with Richardson?
I don't know. That's a question mark. And don't forget, you still got Pittman over there
And Josh Downs.
and Josh Downs.
Obviously he's going to take over one of
Yeah.
the side. Alec Pierce was playing. We'll see. Pittman is still going to be the big
Yeah.
body I think that Richardson's going to go through, and Josh Downs is also there. Now, we really don't know what we're going to get at Anthony Richardson this year, right?
Yeah.
We had such a small sample size, and it looked like, a fantasy gold last year. But I know he's not going to be taking off and running the ball,
No.
or at least they're going to tell him not to. So we'll see what he does downfield this year.
All right. Jacksonville Jaguars. Now this guy right here. I've been doing a lot of research on this individual.
Well, you talk about Texas and Adonai Mitchell, right? Not having a lot of yards. Well, here's the other reason why.
Yes. This guy was a good pickup from the Jaguars.
Yeah.
The only problem is he's going to a team where a lot of wide receivers. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Well, they did release Zay Jones.
But it doesn't matter. You got Gabe
Well, you
Davis. You still got receivers in that team. I don't know if they feature this kid the way he should be featured. Let's go over his stats. Obviously, I'm talking about Brian Thomas Jr. Okay, Brian Thomas
did play for Texas.
played for Texas, and the Jags picked him up. Brian Thomas has 68 receptions, 1,100.
More than Adonai.
Yes. Well, not many more. What, 7?
No, not many.
12,
No.
13 more, something like that. 1,177 receiving yards, average 17 yards per. Okay. 17 touchdowns.
Yes. Viewers like to go deep to him, definitely.
17 touchdowns. This kid is good.
How do you keep 17 touchdowns
That's a lot.
on the bench?
Exactly.
So Gabe Davis might be the odd man out there.
But they just signed him. That's my point. And then you got Christian Kirk out there.
Christian Kirk is still the wide receiver to own, in my opinion, in Jacksonville. Only by virtue of being the next door neighbor of Trevor Lawrence.
With this kid, while they drafted Brian Thomas Jr. now, do you think Evan Ingram takes a hit at the tight end position? Does it take a hit for the running back, Travis Etienne, when you got these running backs?
My prediction is that Evan Ingram will not take a hit. It will be Gabe Davis taking the hit.
I do too. All right, let's talk about Travis Etienne. All right, did they draft a running back to replace Travis Etienne? I know they're not going to replace the guy.
Absolutely not. They love Travis Etienne. They have said repeatedly that they want to limit his carries because they want him fresh towards the end of the year. They've said it again this year.
So what does that mean to us? That means I'm not sure if you draft Travis Etienne up early in the draft.
I think it's relative. You have to draft knowing what you're getting, right? You're not drafting him to be your one running back.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, is he as close to? Is he a top 12 running back? Probably. So that makes him a 1.
You think he's a top 12?
Yes. Can you name me 12 other running backs that you would take before him?
Would you take him in the playoffs?
I would take him in the playoffs. Yes.
I don't know about that.
You're gonna have to draft from one rate. You're gonna have to play 2 running backs.
All right, let's talk about the guy they drafted. Maybe could back him up. Keelan Robinson. All right, 13 games, 134 rushing yards, only 12 attempts, 3 touchdowns. He might have been hurt, so we don't know about this kid, Keelan Robinson.
I don't think they drafted anyone to
They
replace
did.
anyone.
No, but you know what? They drafted at depth wise. That's all.
Yes, depth. Yes, I agree.
All right, let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. Xavier Worthy, we just talked about.
Yes, I know he dropped.
He dropped the ball.
He's nervous.
I know he is nervous. Xavier Worthy is the only one really to talk about. Did they draft a tight end, Jared Wiley? Is he replacing Kelsey? He did a 2-year extension. I don't think so anytime soon.
No, Xavier Worthy is another guy. And if you've taken a look at the way wide receivers have progressed lately in the league, there have been instances where, it used to be where you draft a wide receiver, you didn't expect them to do well in their first year. Now, the process has sped up so much that you're not waiting until 1 year after. You're waiting to the second half of the first year. So Worthy might be one of those guys who catches on like Rashee Rice did at the end of last year, where he came out in the last 8 games, 8 games, and he became one of the men for KC.
Wow.
Worthy might get that role.
Who played alongside of Worthy in college?
I don't know who.
Brian Thomas Jr. Didn't he? Because Worthy's out of Texas.
Where did Donnie Mitchell come out of that?
I'm sorry. I apologize. Donnie Mitchell.
Yes.
Stand by. Where did Adonis Mitchell came out of Texas, and so did Xavier Worthy. He had 14 games, 75 Receptions, 1,014 yards with 5 touchdowns. But they utilize him in the run game as well because he has so much speed. Okay? He has so much speed. They gave him 5 attempts for 35 yards. And he had no receiving, no rushing touchdowns. But you can still utilize him because of that speed.
Oh, I'm sorry. We said earlier Brian was playing again. Brian Thompson was playing opposite of Adonier. He played opposite of Malik Neighbors.
There you go, LSU.
Yes.
Okay. And that's I agree.
And then listen. I don't know if we touched on that topic. We went back and we said about. We never spoke about Jaden Daniels. Never mind.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's go to the next game. It's Raider Nation's team, and we're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders.
I wish we could interview him.
That's okay. He's off to the
I
side.
want to know what the Raiders were thinking taking Brock Bowers.
Raiders do what Raiders do. This is exactly what they do every year. All right, let's talk about the Raiders. They took Brock Bowers. Obviously, listen, I'm just going to come up with, what do you think? What do you think his numbers are going to be next year? And when are you going to draft him, Cole? With no quarterback. Michael Penix was on the board for them. I mean, I apologize. He wasn't on the board, but
they had no choices.
Yeah.
But you know what? They could have went Spencer Rattler. They could have went Joe Milton.
Right.
They could have went project wise if they needed to, something built for the future. But no, they chose not to.
All right,
Let's just take a tight end that no one's going to throw the ball to.
So let's talk about the tight end real quick. What do you think?
So do I take him? Is he going to be a top 15?
No, you still got Michael Myers over there.
I understand that, right? So
I don't think so.
Can that system survive 2 productive top 15, top 12 tight ends?
No,
absolutely not.
Because they're a running team.
No, they're not. They're not going to survive. And for that, I take Brock Bowers in a dynasty league, but in redraft, he's going to be left undrafted. I think.
I do too.
I know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not drafted.
Yeah, neither am I. Any person of worthy talking about is Dylan Lube, a running back, but I don't think he replaces. I like that kid, the running back they have,
Zamir White.
Zamir White. I do like Zamir White. All right, let's move on from the Raiders. That's pretty much all they had to talk about, was the tight end position. All right, the next one we have is the Los Angeles Chargers. This is very interesting here. The Chargers. Obviously, Joe Alt for the run game because the coach likes to run the ball. And he's going to establish the run. And we got Ladd McConkey.
The Chargers were one of 5 teams that most improved, and because they got Ladd McConkey is one of the reasons why. But I'm going to tell you a guy that I really like.
I do too. I already know who you're talking about. The running back,
my God.
Vidal. And the reason why you like Vidal, because of the catches out the backfield. I already know you.
Yes, to me,
of course.
He is.
Eckler
he's
2.0. There you go.
Yeah, that's the way I say it. We did not speak about
No,
this.
we did not. But I already did the research on it, and I know what you're talking about. All right, let's go to the running back first, and then we'll go up the ladder. How you like that? All right, 3, 2, 1. Chargers. Kamani Vidal. 297 attempts last year. Out of Troy.
Workhorse.
1,661 rushing yards. Only number 2 to Ollie Gordon, who didn't come out of the draft. Ollie Gordon is going back to Oklahoma State, which will probably be the first running back off the draft, the 2025 draft. Okay? Ollie Gordon led the nation in rushing. Number 2 was Vidal, who no one knows about.
Yeah.
All right. So what really pops up in your mind, like you just said, 18 receptions, 201 yards, and one receiving touchdown. But, dude, 1,661 rushing yards. I know it's Troy out of the Sun Belt Conference, but so what? You don't just stand there. You got to move.
We'll see what training camp unfolds and how it works out.
That's why they drafted him with that offensive lineman.
Yes. Yeah.
However,
listen, I'm very excited by that pick, and I would not be surprised if he gets the starting job over Gus Edwards.
And if you could see, I highlighted it right there.
Yeah,
you see it?
Yeah, I saw. I hate thinking like you.
Let's talk about
There's going to be some battles later on in the draft depending on where we pick. We're going to be looking at. There'll be a lot of stares.
Yes, there is going to be a lot of stares. I'm going to stare at you. You're going to stare at me. I know who you're going to pick right now. All right, let's talk about their wide receiver. What's your take on Ladd McConkey? Because I got some stats here. I don't think it's sexy. I'm sorry.
No, it's
not sexy.
It's not sexy, but it's a short-handed receiver for him.
Okay, short-handed. Let's talk about short-handed receiver. 9 games, 30 receptions, 478 yards, and 2 touchdowns. How is that short receiver? What did they see that we're missing? That's it.
They saw a guy who didn't have the skill set to necessarily break away from press coverage, but because it's his technique, I think that they like that. And I believe that Harbaugh is a technique type guy. They're going to need someone underneath. Josh Palmer and Quinn Johnson. Quinn Johnson, is a lot to prove, after his rookie year. Josh Palmer was the guy that they thought out of Tennessee that was going to be the guy, but he's more of a standby guy. He's going to be the guy who's holding someone else's seat.
Okay. Listen, I think the prize pick there is the running back Vidal. I know the offensive lineman Joe Alt is supposed to be the number one offensive lineman, but that running back, let's see how he prospers in dynasty leagues in a couple of years from now. Okay. They had a lot of picks here. They picked up more wide receivers, but that was for depth purposes. Brendan Rice, Cornelius Johnson, and a couple of. They had a lot of picks last year in that draft there. Oh, we missed someone. I apologize. The next team we have is Los Angeles Rams. They picked the edge, but we're talking about skill position players. This is a fantasy football podcast, and let's get right to it. Let's get to.
They didn't really need a lot of offensive guys, but they got one. Anyway.
They got one. We all know who we're talking about. Blake Corum.
Yes.
Corum. He hurts Kyron Williams. Kyron Williams owners are upset about this pick because if I was a Kyron Williams owner, which I believe I am not, you are, what do you do now? Because let me tell you something. This kid is not a scrub. This kid right here. Let's go over this kid's stats from college.
Yeah, all-purpose yards. He's pretty good.
He's very, very good. So let's go over his stats. 258 attempts, 1,245 rushing yards. Okay, he averaged 4.8 yards per carry, which is nice because it goes back to the run game. We talked about that. Okay, receiving, 16 reception, 117 yards. Receiving, 1 touchdown. All-purpose yards, 1,362. How do you sit him on the bench? How does Kyron Williams just get the ball all the time and leave this kid on the bench?
It's going to be difficult. We might be talking about another 1A, 1B situation.
That hurts people.
I know. Kyron did so well last year with being by himself. But listen, he did get hurt, and he's not a big body. And don't forget, he wasn't even drafted. Or if he was
who wasn't drafted?
Kyron Williams.
Yeah, but
They didn't look at him as the guy that was going to carry them into the future. And I'm not saying he can't be still, but there's a reason why he wasn't.
You're right. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. I still think that they're going to split this year.
That stinks. All right.
You're going to keep both of them healthy.
I know, but that stinks. They're going to try to be like Detroit. All right,
most teams are.
I know. Let's move on. The Miami Dolphins.
You talk about Detroit. Look, they did the same thing.
I know. But I guess they went with whoever was hot. I believe Montgomery split, but I think at the end of the year, Gibbs was more. He's a better running back than Montgomery is. We all know that. I'd rather have Gibbs than Montgomery in fantasy, especially dynasty. If we're going to talk about dynasty.
Listen, we're going to do the same thing. If all things being equal and no one gets hurt, let's put those two caveats in there. Montgomery's not going away.
Yeah,
you're not changing that dynamic over there.
Yeah, you're right. All right, let's talk about the Dolphins. The Dolphins, Jalen Wright was their first running back. Obviously, they picked two defensive, one defense, one offense, and they picked up a running back, Jalen Wright. You like Jalen Wright a lot.
I did when I saw him on tape.
You liked him.
I liked him a lot, but I didn't want him for the Giants, so that tells you where I am on him. So
why didn't you?
I liked him, but not for my team.
Why?
I just think he was a little small.
All right, so Miami got Jalen Wright, the running back. 137 yards, attempts, 1,037, 1,013 yards rushing. He played out of Tennessee. 4 touchdowns. That means he wasn't a big bruiser back in the red zone. They didn't utilize him. And we all know touchdowns are the key for fantasy. But that's but however, 22 receptions, 141 yards receiving, but no touchdowns receiving. So Miami's looking for this guy who runs a 4.3 40, and I think this is the kid that replaces Mostert in the future.
Well, Mostert is going to be how old?
33, I think, 32, 33. Yeah, this is the kid that replaces Mostert in the future. So dynasty-wise, I would draft him, not because I'm a Dolphin fan, but with that system with Mike McDaniels, He's the guy that's going to replace Mostert. Him and Achan are going to be the ones. 1 and 1A, like you like to say. All right, the next guy. This is a big one right here, which scratches my head.
Yes, we spoke about
Malik
this.
Washington, the wide receiver, all right, out of Virginia. Even though he's short in stature, he led the nation with receptions, 110 yards receiving, 1,426 yards.
110 receptions.
I'm sorry, 110 receptions. That's what I meant. 1,426 yards receiving. All right, he had 9 touchdowns. He had 3 rushing attempts for 7 yards. He's not a jet sweep type of guy. So what does that lead me to believe? You think he's a gimmick player in the NFL, right? You would think. Short, compact. I'm just saying.
Definitely a slot guy.
He's definitely a slot guy. But then the boneheads turn around and they sign Odell Beckham Jr.
Don't understand.
How do you draft this kid and then you sign Odell Beckham Jr.? And then they drafted another guy, Taj Washington out of USC. Another one with 59 receptions, 13 games, 1,062 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. You drafted
I take a look at Taj as more of a special teams guy right now.
punt returner?
Maybe right now
Okay.
at this point. But the Odell signing, I just don't understand that.
It boggles my mind. I just don't understand them.
You have enough veteran leadership on the team. You don't need Odell.
Or do they sign Odell to teach this kid how to become a slot receiver?
Do you really need that?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just making stuff up, hoping.
I'm curious as to why they did it. So maybe, as the time goes on, you listen to Miami podcasts and you'll find out why. But I certainly don't. I can't.
Well,
give
they
an
love
answer right
they
now.
love the Odell signing. The podcast, the beat writers down in Miami love the Odell signing. I don't like it because
Why didn't they illustrate the lack of touches to Jaden Waddle, who I think Jalen is going to be the one who unfortunately is the worst of this. He's going to lose the target.
What I think is going to happen now, I think they want to go to four receiver sets. I think they want to spread. They want to spread the ball. That's my opinion.
Okay. Still, there's only so many targets that are going to go around. Someone has to lose out.
I think the person going to lose out is Tyreek.
I don't think so.
I think Tyreek loses. I don't think he gets 17 targets a game. Not 17 a game. That killed us last year. Okay,
You weren't saying that when they were blowing people out by 30 points every game.
let's move on. Let's move on. The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy. Let's go over J.J. McCarthy's stats, all right? Because a lot of people are high on J.J. McCarthy. I'm not. Maybe I'm the wrong one. Maybe I'm like Stephen A. Smith talking about Jalen Brunson when they signed him. All right, I'm not high on J.J. McCarthy. All right, let's go over the stats in college. I know this is the NFL, but let's see what he did in college. J.J. McCarthy in college, 15 games, 332 attempts. 2,991 passing yards with 22 touchdowns. I know what you're gonna say. They were a running team.
Yes.
I know what you're gonna say.
This is what J.J. McCarthy played on a team that's the way the Chargers are going to look like this year.
And he also had 64 rushing attempts with 202 yards rushing with three touchdowns.
The Chargers will be this year's Michigan.
So that means you don't draft Justin Herbert. He's not going to air it out.
I don't believe so. No, you just illustrated the signing of Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
He's not a go deep guy.
All right.
You know what's funny though? If there's another stat that your stats didn't show is that McCarthy had more third down and long passes than Penix or Jaden McDaniels.
No, I don't have that advanced tool.
Yes.
That's why I have you, my friend. I appreciate the insight.
So because to counter your point, just because he didn't throw a lot doesn't mean he can't throw a lot. And he's definitely good decision making if you're making that many third down throws. And Harbaugh's relying on him to make it. Let's just say this. The Minnesota Vikings, their philosophy is throw the ball all over the yard. J.J. McCarthy's going to have more yards passing this year with the Vikings than he did with Michigan.
All right, let's see.
And more touchdowns.
That's good for Justin
Listen,
Jefferson.
you've got too many skill position players over in Minnesota for him not to throw the ball.
We shall see.
Don't forget, who was their quarterback last year? That guy Howell, right?
No, Sam Howell was.
No, it's not Sam Howell. There was another. I forget now who it is. I think they moved on from him. He was on pace for 5,000 yards. You don't get on pace for 5,000 yards by not having an offense that likes to throw the ball.
Talk about the Vikings.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. He's so significant.
He's so you're wrong.
So,
Nick Mullins.
oh,
And who's still with the team, by the way.
yeah. Well, he's probably a third string running back. All right, quarterback. All right, let's talk about. Let's move on from New England Patriots. New England Patriots. Drake May. I like this kid, Jalen Polk. That's who I was talking about. All right, let's talk about. They took two wide receivers and a quarterback.
Who are we on?
New
Who
England
skipped
Patriots.
Minnesota?
No, I spoke about
Oh,
Minnesota.
all right.
JJ McCarthy. He's really the only one of significance there. All right, New England Patriots is next. We talked about Drake May. And let's talk about Drake May a little bit. Let's look at his college stats. All right. Drake May, 425 attempts, 3,608 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, and 112 rushing attempts for 449 yards rushing. 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, well, that's not a good average right there. So you know those runs came from in close.
That's okay, though. But because if you think about it, if they utilize him like that in the NFL, which I doubt they will, okay, but if they utilize him like that, that's big for fantasy guys like us because we like a running quarterback gets a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah,
here
I
and
know
there.
there's a lot of similarities they point out to Josh Allen.
Yeah.
To this year's Drake May. I don't think Drake May is going to be Josh Allen this year. I think
A couple years.
yes. Jacoby Brissett. I think they're comfortable with playing the string out on this year
God.
and having Drake May learn. Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about. I like this kid. Jalen Polk, wide receiver. Who did he play against? Who did he play opposite of? Do you know?
No, I do not, Commish. That's the reason why I have you here.
Played in Washington.
Oh,
Next-
Odunze.
Next to Odunze.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a couple of stats.
Can't
all
wait
right.
to hear it.
69 receptions, 1,159 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns, 4 rushing, 32 yards, 1 touchdown. Meaning, he was almost like a jet sweep. He could be utilizing jet sweeps. He was next to Dunze, and he got 69 receptions with 1,159 yards receiving.
Listen, not a bad season.
That's not a bad season.
for a number 2 on the
For a
team.
guy who was next to the guy who led the nation in receiving.
Yes, yeah.
This is what I'm saying to you. I like this kid. I like him. I think dynasty-wise, this is a kid you could look at because he might be Drake May and Polk linking up together in the future.
In the future, yes. This year, who knows what his year is going to look like with Jacoby
I
under
think it's.
center.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be the other one. Who's the wide receiver out of New England?
Kendrick Bourne?
I think Kendrick Bourne's
Yeah.
here right now. I think it's not. He's not ready yet. He's going to learn. I think in a couple of years, dynasty-wise, you should keep your eye on Jalen Polk out of New England via Washington Huskies.
Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad prognostication. I think
Yes.
you're pretty good on that. It's not out of line with what everyone else has been predicting so far.
Let's go to the other wide receiver they picked up. All right, Javon Baker out of UFC.
Yes, this isn't the guy they're very high on. Also,
I like him too. 52 receptions last year, 1,139 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. All right, this is the guy that's going to go opposite. He's going to be Drake May, Baker, and Polk in the future, dynasty-wise.
yes, I can see those two
Yep.
lining up opposite sides, and Drake May and then Demario Douglas playing a slot. I can see that.
Yep. That's all I have for New England. Skill position players.
Well, I think New England, like I said, I think New England's content on saying we're just going to have a wait and see year.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. New Orleans Saints. Saints. There's only one person I like right here, okay, and that is Spencer Rattler. It hurts Carr because I think they know Carr's ceiling already. Spencer Rattler, I think, has a high ceiling, believe it or not, even though he was drafted as fourth or fifth quarterback off the board out of South Carolina.
Yeah, obviously Rattler's probably not going to play this year as a starter. He's going to be learning, but yeah, I can see them moving on to Derek Carr eventually.
All right, let's look at Spencer Rattler's numbers here. Spencer Rattler played 12 games last year, 399 attempts, 3,186 yards passing. He averaged 8 yards per pass. All right, okay, 8 yards, 19 touchdowns. 19 touchdowns.
He's definitely going to be a project. I mean, he's unless he was holding back. Last year, don't forget, Xavier Leggett was his wide receiver. And so maybe he just discovered, hey, let me throw downfield to Leggett. But I see him more of a project. And as far as the Saints concerned, this is something for the future.
But this is the problem I have here. Look at this stat.
Let me see.
This is an advanced stat.
Give me the advanced.
97 attempts in rushing, 104 yards. Hold on. 1 yard average. What does that mean? What that means is when the pocket breaks down and he tries to run,
he's not getting far. Well, listen, he doesn't have 4.3 speed.
no, that's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah.
My point to you is he's going to have to be a quarterback that sits in the pocket and learns the pocket instead of running. So when you're drafting and you're thinking about that, are you going to draft Spencer Rattler knowing that he won't take off and get? It's almost like Tua. Tua can't run. Either you're throwing it or that's it.
You're taking a sack, or you throw the ball away.
But that's what
He's
you
gonna
have.
have to be a smart quarterback.
That's what you have with Spencer Rattler. He's not going to be a guy that's going to take off and get you yards.
Well,
after
listen,
the
there's
line.
a reason why he wasn't drafted top 3. So
All right.
that's why they call it a project. That's the reason why you sit for a year. Hopefully, learn the game.
All right. Let's move on. Your New York Football Giants.
Yes, the G.
The G-Men. All right. Malik Neighbors. I like Malik Neighbors. He was number 2 in the nation with receiving yards, 1,569 receiving yards, 89 receptions, 17.6 yards per reception, 14 touchdowns. Ooh, those are some sexy numbers. Can Daniel Nickel Jones get him the ball?
If they can give him more than 2 seconds to pass, yes.
All right.
So we spoke about this, and we spoke about how Miami does it. Tua didn't want Tua to get concussions. The answer: get the ball out faster. All right. In order to get the ball out faster, you need fast wide receivers. That's when Malik Neighbors definitely checks that box right there. So he can get off the line real fast. Daniel Jones doesn't have to sit back and analyze the field for 3, 4, 5 seconds. He can get rid of the ball and then get, splash plays with Malik making yards after the catch. That's the theory.
Okay.
My honest feeling inside is I'm glad they drafted Malik Neighbors. I am. I would rather have him over J.J. McCarthy, right? But I almost look at this. There you go again.
I think you're wasting your talents with this guy. I just think you're wasting talent.
I look at Malik Neighbors the same way I did with Saquon Barkley. The guy was too
Okay, that's
good for
fair.
the Giants to be
Yes.
drafted.
Okay, fair.
You're wasting his talent at least the
Yes.
first 2 years because I don't know if Danny Dimes is gonna make that leap.
Danny Nichols, please. Don't say Danny Dimes to me. Please.
We'll see. Can he go back to some semblance of the way he was 2 years ago?
And what was that?
A decent top 12 sometimes every few weeks
Top
quarterback.
every few weeks. You don't need
Yes.
every few weeks.
Well, listen, that's what they got, all right?
All right. Let's move on from this topic, please. Let's go to your running back. I like your running back that you picked up.
I do too.
Tyrone Tracy Jr.
Him and Vidal are my 2 secret running
Yes.
backs.
Tyrone Tracy, 11 games, 113 rushing attempts, 716 yards, 8 touchdowns, 19 receptions, 132 yards in receiving. I did the kick catch out the backfield. Okay.
He can. I've seen tape.
He's the future. Is he going to take over Singletary in a couple of years?
Yes.
There you go. Dynasty League. Remember that name, Tyrone Tracy out of the New York Football Giants. If you're looking for anyone in the Dynasty, he could be a guy you could pick up in the Dynasty later on and put him on your taxi squad. Okay.
Don't forget, they also picked out the 3rd best tight end.
Yes, which
Theo
is
Johnson.
Theo Johnson.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys utilize your tight ends. You don't have an office that utilizes tight ends. I'm sorry. Another one's going to be with Kenny Block.
Well, hold on. You're talking about a guy who used to coach the Bills and who had Knox. They utilized their tight ends. They just haven't been able to lately.
Okay.
Did Darren Waller stay healthy last year?
Terrible.
And he don't even know whether he's coming back or not.
Terrible. I know. He's just retire already. You already drafted a tight end. Just go. All right. Let's move on. The New York Football Jets. Malachi Corley is. Why would they draft another running back? But let's go over this real quick. Malachi Corley for the New York Jets. What a name.
Well, Malachi Corley is going to be the second coming. That's the theory, at least, of. Oh my God! Now I just forgot his name. Who was the slot receiver for Green Bay that they brought over? Hobbs. No.
Dobbs.
No.
Dobbs. Devontae Wicks.
No. All right.
Christian Watson.
No, they brought him over. He played with the Jets last year. He was their slot guy for years for Aaron Rodgers.
Berrios. No, he came with the Dolphins. I'm not sure. You can
No,
look
go
it
ahead.
up.
Continue
All right,
with
real
your
quick.
talk.
Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. Okay, 12
Don't
games,
get old, folks.
79 yards, 79 receptions, 984 yards, receiving 11 touchdowns. Not bad. That's a nice little pick, and especially when you get him in the second round, I believe.
Randall Cobb. Thank you.
Right. Oh God.
Malachi has those traits.
Okay. Out of the Jets. We all know Rodgers likes him, but is he somebody do you go after this guy in your redraft leagues? No, not really. He'll probably, if he does well, you'll possibly be a waiver wire pickup, a hot waiver wire pickup for a week.
He might be that, and he might be a replacement player for bye week.
Yeah.
You might get some of those weeks in there, but as a guy who's going to definitely be on your roster from beginning to end, I doubt it.
All right, let's talk about the running back that they picked up, Braylon Allen,
yes.
out of Wisconsin. 11 games, 181 attempts, 984 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns. That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
Why?
28 receiving
Why?
yards. I don't know. Depth, I guess. Depth. They don't really need this kid.
You know, you look at him and you could say he's second on the depth chart. I don't think so. Israel Abanikanda, they loved last year.
Yeah, I don't know why they drafted him. Not only that, and they drafted a quarterback, Jordan Travis. This was a head scratcher. Is he the next person to take over for the New York Jets?
I don't know about that.
All right, let's talk about Jordan Travis out of Florida State. All right, 11 games, 324 attempts, 2,756 yards, and I believe he had 20 touchdowns. That's not bad.
Listen,
Learn under Rodgers?
maybe that's it. Rodgers isn't great at sharing, so we'll see.
That's not bad. Dynasty? Would you pick him up in dynasty leagues? You're not drafting in redraft leagues.
No, not drafting and redraft, and actually, dynasty. You get only 4 rounds. We're gonna only have 4 rounds this year. I don't see him making that cut.
Here goes another one. Isaiah Davis, running back for the New York Jets. Why would another running back? What is going on over there?
I see that more of the special teams thing.
I do too. I think it's depth chart in case anyone gets hurt because they realize that the depth chart wise that they need guys.
By the way, I know we got to rush through this, but going back to Patriots, we didn't mention this, but they drafted Drake May. They also drafted another quarterback, Joe Milton III, who at the combine put on a show with his big arm.
That's true.
He's definitely
I
a
do
project.
apologize.
That's definitely a project, and that's going to be interesting in the future to see where he goes in a couple of years because he could be future trade material.
That's right. I overlooked that. I do apologize. Talk about that real quick. Let's go back to Joe Milton out of the SEC, out of the Tennessee Volunteers. 354 attempts, 2,813 yards passing, and he had 20 touchdowns. And this is the big one here. 78 rushing attempts for 299 yards rushing. So if the play breaks down, he's taking off.
He's a big man.
He's a big man.
He is a big man.
7 rushing touchdowns and 3.8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Good pickup. Good pickup, Cole. That's why I have you.
Let's move on to Philly.
All right, Philly. What do you have here? Defensive Will Shapley, the running back. Is he going to take over for
Will Shipley's interesting. I don't understand why
Is he going to take over for Saquon?
Well,
No.
he's not going to take over for Saquon, but Saquon, with his injury history, might be an insurance policy.
Right,
Shipley might be.
Let's look up Will Shipley here. All right. He went to. I apologize. He went to. Where did Will Shipley go to?
He went to Philly.
No, I'm talking about.
Where did he go?
College-wise,
I believe.
Oh, here it is. Will Shipley's from Clemson.
Clemson. He
All
was
right,
in the SEC.
ACC. ACC.
Clemson went to ACC.
827 rushing attempts. Okay.
Can't be 800.
I
rushing
apologize.
attempts.
827 yards.
Yes.
167 rushing attempts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, touchdowns. He only had 5 touchdowns last year out of Clemson. Receiving, though, he had 31 receptions, 244 yards receiving. That's a lot for a running back.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Doesn't he fit the role of the guy who played behind the pass catching back who you liked out of the Eagles last year? The one that you picked. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head.
Oh, Gainwell.
Gainwell. He reminds me of Gainwell in a way. What do you think?
Could be.
Are you drafting Shipley in dynasty leagues with a 4-round draft?
Ooh,
are you doing that?
Tough. It's gonna be tough depending on where people are falling. I might in the
Really?
4th round. Yes.
In the 4th round?
Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah.
definitely not in redraft leagues.
In redraft, I don't know. You're gonna have to.
Depth chart.
You're gonna have to see what your depth chart's looking
Okay.
like.
All right. Let's.
If you're going 0 RB,
Yeah.
you might be taking it, Will Shipley.
Okay.
Let's move on to Pittsburgh.
All right. Let's move on to picks. No one else of significant. You got right here. Oh, Roman Wilson.
Listen, as far
Talk
as
to
I'm
me.
concerned,
Talk to me.
Pittsburgh is a winner in the draft.
I like that
They've
card.
improved their O-line so much. Now, I know we're not talking about stuff, but they got Troy Fontenot
Mm-hmm.
and Zach Frazier, center and a tackle, that are going to be the anchors of that offensive line for years to come. I'm telling you, the biggest beneficiaries of Pittsburgh Steelers was Najee Harris and Jalen Warren.
Najee Harris didn't even pick up his 5th-year option. He's not going to be there next year.
It doesn't matter if
With
they're in the
Jalen
next year.
Warren's a nice-
I'm talking about this year. Their offensive line is so improved.
I don't think Jalen Warren gets anything.
And let
I'm
me
sorry.
tell you-
I don't think Najee is a guy. I'm sorry. I just
It
don't.
might not. It might not. But there's a reason why he's still on the team. They're No.
free? Absolutely not. Let's talk about Roman Wilson.
That's the guy I wanted to get to.
I like him. Out of Mich-
Pittsburgh has a way of always picking a good wide receiver. You've noticed it over the years.
Yes.
So have I. Roman Wilson, who played opposite of Marvin Harrison Jr.
No.
Yeah. Didn't he? He didn't play for
No.
Michigan?
No, Marvin Harrison Jr. played for Ohio State. Yeah,
that's
watch
what
your mouth. Roman Wilson played for Michigan.
Yes.
Marvin Harrison Jr. played with Ohio State, so he didn't play opposite of him.
Who did Roman play opposite of? He played opposite of someone good.
I can't remember who he played opposite with Michigan. I don't think another Michigan wide receiver. I think Blake Corum. I don't know if anyone is for significance for Michigan wide receiver wise. Maybe a couple of years ago, but not now. But let's talk about Roman Wilson's stats for this year. 48 receptions, 789 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns.
I think Roman Wilson's going to be a good NFL player.
This is a big one here. You ready for this one? Pittsburgh Steelers. You know how they operate with their offense, correct?
Yes.
You know, their wide receivers are kind of like pseudo running backs, sometimes with jet sweeps, fake plays, and stuff like that, correct?
Yes.
Roman Wilson, 49 receptions. I'm sorry. I do apologize. I apologize. That's total scrimmage yards. 49, 799, and 12 touchdowns total in scrimmage. I apologize. All right. Slot receiver, opposite of Pickens. What do you think?
Definitely.
What's his? Give me numbers. Give me numbers real quick.
You're probably looking at 60 catches, 700 yards, and 5 touchdowns this year.
All right. Well, there's no one else of significance. They just upgraded the offensive line. They picked him up, and there's defensive and offensive linemen. Okay, let's move on. We'll talk about skill position players. San Francisco 49ers. I'm a little upset with this team here. I'm a little upset with them. Am I really upset with them or my Dolphins? Because they had a chance to pick the guy that I wanted in the draft. Let's go over them. Ricky Pearsall. Let's talk about Ricky Pearsall. Everyone thinks that he's going to be this great guy with the one-handed catch. Can he catch? Okay, in college he could catch. Let's go over the stats in college.
Let's go over those
All
stats.
right, let's go over these stats. Stand by. Let me just come up with my man Ricky Pearsall here. And where is he?
Talk about another guy who came out of nowhere just for 1 year and then made the most of that 1 year to be an NFL player.
Ricky?
Yep.
Here he is. Ricky Pearsall, Florida, SEC, 12 games, 65 receptions, 965 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. Okay. Rushing, 3 attempts, 62 yards. Not sexy.
No.
What they see in this guy? What did they see?
Potential to be a Debo Samuels. Light.
I don't know about that. No one's a Debo Samuels light.
Well, don't forget, they also were trying to trade either Ayuk or Samuels before the draft started. And, let's just be honest, to your point, you're questioning why they drafted Pearsall. So were a lot of people. Since they didn't get rid of Ayuk and Debo, why did they draft him?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's nothing sexy popped out of college. That's all
No.
I'm saying. I know things can
Like I said, he made the most of a good combine and his last year in college.
All right, let's talk about.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Where do you draft him?
I don't know if I draft him.
He goes undrafted?
In redraft,
Free agency?
You might be a free agent pickup.
Are you serious? Dynasty?
I'm sorry, but listen, in a lot of leagues last year, Puka Nacua was a free agent pickup.
Ooh, I know. I picked him up after the first round.
Right. So the first week he met.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I don't see Ricky Pearsall being drafted by a lot of people.
Okay.
Not with the offense basically staying the same as it was last year.
Okay. Let's talk about
Garendo.
Yes.
Listen, the guy put on a show at the combine. He's a freak athlete.
I think he's going to be special. Dynasty League. I like this kid.
And I believe Shanahan, likes projects like that.
All right, let's go over his stats. It wasn't sexy. Remember, he was the backup to the other running back that was drafted. He's out of Louisville. ACC only had 130.
Right, he wasn't even the starter.
He wasn't a starter. 132 yards attempts, 810 yards rushing. He only had 11 touchdowns. Okay.
The film we saw on him is that he loved to catch the ball out of the backfield.
He sure did. And you know what that means. This kid right here, keep an eye out for that kid, for the San Francisco 49ers. He is McCaffrey's replacement.
Yeah, I believe
he is McCaffrey's replacement.
I could see that
yes,
happening.
He is.
Whether or not it does, we'll see, the NFL being the way it is, but I could definitely see the comparisons.
He's McCaffrey's replacement. All right. Are we missing anybody? No, that's it. For skill position players.
No, right.
All right. Seattle Seahawks.
Tampa Bay.
Hold on. I got Seahawks here. Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, you missed them before. That's why. Okay.
I missed Tampa Bay?
No. You went San Fran. You should have went Seahawks.
Oh, Pittsburgh, San Fran, Seahawks. Okay, Seahawks. Anyone of significance with the Seahawks? No, they had a offensive lineman, defensive tackle type of draft, and they got a tight end, A.J. Barner. Again, A.J. Barner. Do they really utilize their tight ends much? They don't. So that's not of significance right now. Okay, damn. Let's go to the Bucks. Now, I'm gonna talk about the Bucks real quick. There is one player that I like a lot. The problem is he hurts somebody, and you know who he hurts. He hurts the guy that you and I liked last year. We had him, we drafted him, but you can't take the skill set away. It goes back to what you've been saying throughout the whole podcast. 1A. Oh, we're gonna do this again? It is.
No, we're not gonna do that this year. Rachaad White still will be the one. Bucky Irving might come in here and spell him, but we're gonna have to see what he does. He was not a big guy coming out of college. He's not a big. I think he's 5'8", 5'9". He does catch the ball out of the backfield, but so does Rachaad White. I don't think what he does is that he's like almost a he runs violent, right? So see, he's gonna fight for the yards.
Let's go to the stats.
Go ahead.
Let's go to the stats. 14 games. He played all the games last year at Oregon. All right, and with Bo Nix as well. 186 rushing attempts, 1,180 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, 56 receptions, 413 yards receiving. 56 receptions.
Who was his quarterback?
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix, who we've already said is going to be passing to his running backs.
That's right.
Yes.
I like that.
Is that what's going? And you know what? Baker likes to throw to his running backs too.
Yes.
Rachaad White got a lot of catches last year. I believe 50 or not more.
So is it 1 and 1A?
It's still Rachaad White until Bucky can show that he can be an NFL running back.
Redraft or dynasty?
In dynasty and in redraft on both. I'm drafting him both ways because he's going to be the definite backup to Rachaad. You have to take a backup.
Okay.
He's not a backup to a backup. He will be the backup.
He will be the back. He's the number 2.
Yes.
All right, he's the number 2.
It's not going to be Chase Edmonds.
Who?
We've seen that story.
We've seen that, yes. I like this kid, Bucky Irvin. I think he might be a redraft pickup. I believe
there might be weeks that he wins.
Yeah.
That, God forbid anything happens. We don't like to see injuries, but they do happen. But he could be a starter for a few weeks.
I think so, too. I believe maybe 8th, 9th round to back up your running back. That's my opinion.
Good opinion.
I think so. All right, let's talk about this kid, Jalen McMillan out of the Bucks, who they drafted. Okay, 11 games, 559 yards receiving, 45 receptions, 5 TDs. Played alongside of who? No, it says he also played alongside. I believe he's out of Washington. Could you look that up for me, Cole? Jalen McMillan played alongside. So you got 3 wide receivers that came out of Washington, if I'm correct. All right, Jalen McMillan, Polk, and Odunze. And let's see where he came out of. So he played alongside of him. So you got the 3 wide receiver sets, and the Bucks picked him up. Maybe they turn around. So Jalen McMillan,
Yeah, I'll get it. Hold on.
Again, 11 games, 559 yards, 45 receptions, 5 TDs.
All right, so
What college did you go out of? Washington?
yes,
Washington. So he played in a 3 wide receiver set. So you got 3 running. All 3 running backs got drafted in the NFL. Okay? All 3 of them. So it's somebody you could look at for dynasty wise, or maybe someone that could take over a wide receiver position. You got the stud, the old man. Then you got 2 wide receivers that are studs there, cemented in their starting lineups. Maybe.
Yeah, and barring an injury, I'm still taking Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, but the guy to keep eye on is Bucky Irvin there. Tennessee Titans, obviously they picked up all defensive, offensive tackles. So we're gonna move on from Tennessee. All right. No one of significance of skill position players. Watch the Commanders. Ooh, there goes that man, Jalen Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, yes.
Jaden Daniels. I'm gonna go over his stats right now because let me tell you something. It's something special. It is something special, and I'm gonna tell you why in 1 second when I get to my stats. Jaden Daniels, 12 games, 327 attempts, 3,812 yards. Okay, 40 touchdowns. Did you hear me correctly?
40 touchdowns.
40 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I'm not done.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to hear the rest?
Let me see. Let me hear what his average per pass was.
Average per pass was 11 yards, 11.7 yards per pass. That's not what I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
135 rushing attempts, 1,134 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, 50 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This guy right here, stat-wise, analytic-wise, he's going to be your number 1
Well,
pick.
there were a lot of people saying he surpassed Caleb Williams and should have been the number 1 quarterback.
He is the number 1 pick in Dynasty.
Yeah, I could see that.
He is the number 1 pick.
Absolutely. Yes.
You agree?
Yes.
He's number 1 pick, people.
Listen, if he starts the year, which everyone says he's going to probably do that, if he starts and he has a whole year under his
Amazing.
belt, he might be a top 12 quarterback.
Amazing. That's fantastic.
They look at the talent that's surrounding him.
Yeah.
You still got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. They drafted Luke McCaffrey,
Oh.
yet another McCaffrey.
Let's talk about Luke McCaffrey real quick. We're talking about the guys that were drafted. All right, Luke McCaffrey, 13 games, 71 receptions, 992 yards, 13 touchdowns, rushing attempts. Here he is, almost like his brother as a wide receiver. 15 rushing attempts, 117 yards, average 7.8 yards per rush.
Yeah. Those McCaffreys, boy.
Those McCaffreys are something special. Something special. Okay? Okay. Let's move on from there. All I'm saying, you got 2 nice little studs there, man.
Yeah, they were the one of my, again, I said those 5 most improved teams through the draft, and Washington was one of those 5.
Go.
Yeah, I know we had to rush through to
No, that wasn't a rush.
Oh, okay.
We ended it on top. Jalen McDaniels, in my opinion, in a redraft league, you might have to think about first-round pick with Jalen Daniels if he gets a nod to start. I'm sorry, you cannot overlook those stats. Oh, those are sexy.
Listen, I'm not picking Jaden Daniels over
Who?
Lamar. Give me your first 12 off the board.
I can't do that right now. But let's go.
Let's say
No.
you go Mahomes. Let's go Josh Allen. Go Lamar.
I need a list right now. I can't go over it right now.
Okay.
We'll do that another segment.
All right. Next segment.
You have anything for me, Cole?
No.
You think we went over everything?
We went over the post draft pretty well. I think.
Post draft?
Yeah. Listen, we got a couple of months now. Well, less than a little over a month before spring. They have spring camp. They're coming in June, right? We're gonna find out a little bit there, not too much. And then a few weeks after that, you got training camp. That's where you're obviously gonna find out the bulk of what's gonna happen this year. And hopefully, we'll have a year where injuries are limited. Hopefully, but we'll see. We'll see how this pans out right now.
Sounds good.
There's definitely a lot of talent out there. Where it goes, how it shapes up, and how productive they're going to be in fantasy for us, that's a different story. We'll see how that plays out.
I agree. Listen, I appreciate you coming down here to the Cove. I appreciate the special guest in-house studio, Raider Nation off to the corner. He's very quiet. He's listening. He's taking notes on Dynasty and redraft information that we have given. You're more than welcome. Thank you for coming out for the support. I think we went over a lot of information for all the new guys that were drafted onto all different teams. We'll see what happens. The running backs, the wide receivers, and it's a couple of tight ends. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen, but based on our opinion, I think the way we feel, hopefully you guys enjoy our information. We went back to the college stats to make sure you guys see how they utilize them in college. Obviously, it's different in the NFL, but hey, now you have a basis, you have a starting point where you could start to see how they can utilize these individuals.
Yeah. There's so much rattling through here right now. I just, it's very fascinating where some guys have went, where the projections were, the hype around certain people, and what it turns out to be might be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll see. Like Odunze, I love the Odunze coming out.
Yeah.
There was talk about the Giants even getting him at some point, and I would have been fine with that one also. And I'm glad we got Malik Neighbors. But again, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and it's just going to be fun the way it shapes out.
Sure is.
It's way too early to be doing mock draft. I mean, well, first of all, it's never way too early to do mock draft, but it's way too early to say this is going to be the team going forward. Can't put anything in concrete yet.
Not yet. There's a lot of losers out there, a lot of winners and a lot of losers. All right, teams who drafted players. All right, do your research, see who it hurts, who it helps. For the teams, for the rookies coming in, there are some individuals with long in the tooth. Just one on the top of my head, Adam Thielen. I think he's on his last legs, in my opinion. I think it might be time to retire. There's some people like that. Okay, just do your research, and we will see you guys next podcast. Putting something together, and the co-commissioner and I will get together. I guess sometime during the summertime and put something together.
If something big comes up in the next few weeks, we'll put together another show.
Yeah.
But I don't anticipate the next show would probably be right after spring camp, maybe right before training camp. Yeah, we'll have a summer show.
We'll have a summer show.
You can get dressed up in your shorts and your sunglasses and sit by the kiddie wading pool.
You guys, thank you for listening, guys. If you like the channel, subscribe on the bottom. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you enjoyed this segment. We enjoyed coming together and bringing all that information to you guys. Thank you for coming out. Thank you. Raider Nation, thank you.
Raider Nation.
Much love. You guys have a good night. Be safe. Bye-bye.